Hello friends, ZQuixotix here with another support spotlight. This time I've got a guide on how to play Treant Protector, which as you can see, I love this hero. I have strong opinions on how to play him, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you all today. I think he is the best hard support right now, with some room. Others are pretty good too, but great 5 and a very solid 4 as well. And if you know how to play him in the 5 role, you will be able to play him in the 4 role. So both positions, one video, how convenient. We'll begin with the skill build, which is extremely flexible, probably one of the most flexible in the game right now, because you can max these abilities in almost any order and take any of these talents left or right, just depending on the situation. So if you don't want to listen to me too much, here is a good cookie cutter build that you can run in every game. It will work, it'll be fine. It's probably optimal in like 50 to 70% of games, but if you want to adjust further than that, well then listen along. So to break down this build first, we're going to go WQW in the laning stage. This is our laning power. You want the slows from these abilities to enable your high base damage right clicks. You're just going to punch people, and just getting an extra punch or two is how you're going to get more damage in the laning stage, rather than try to like use your spells for damage. The damage from these is not amazing. Leech Seed is okay, especially because it got buffed in the early game. It's part of why Treant is so good right now, but it's more about the fact that it damages and heals. The damage is 100 going into 180 at level 2, but then it heals you that amount as well, so long as you are in the radius for that 5-second duration. That is what gives you a lot of turnaround potential. The slow itself from this ability is not amazing, but the slow from Nature's Grasp is really solid, 20%, and you're going to use it kind of in a zone controlling way, so you're going to like throw it down in a line, and you want to make them choose between spending a lot of time in Nature's Grasp, which is going to get you more damage, but the damage is not amazing, so more likely they're just going to walk out of it, which is why the damage is not good. And in that time, they're trying to just walk out of Nature's Grasp, or they change their path to avoid Nature's Grasp. You want to punch them in the face in that time. That's a little hard to explain. I'll try to look for examples to pop up here or in the follow-up video, but for now, just the slow is the important part of Nature's Grasp in the laning stage. Now, if it is a lot of ranged heroes in lane, you might do something like this, Nature's Grasp level 1, or if you are scared of pushing out the lane, then Nature's Grasp level 1 can be good, because you have a bit more control on how to use it. Leech Seed, you can't control, so it'll either push out your lane because the creeps are nearby, or you don't get the full value out of the spell because there's so many ranged heroes, fast heroes, some kind of mobility, because to get the heal, you have to be within that radius for the 5 seconds. So you'll always get the damage, but the heal, the slow, the punch, right? That is what we care the most about from Leech Seed, because if you just want damage, you'll just find ways to punch them throughout the laning stage. We want that heal to be buffed up by our passive, and that is what kind of allows us to whittle them down. We're not looking for a 100-0 fight. We're like poke, poke, whittle, heal, heal, and then suddenly they're at 50%, we're still full health. It's like, wow, this lane's easy. Every time they walk up, we just punch them, and now we threaten to kill them, right? If you do end up in 100-0 fights, though, that is where Leech Seed is pretty good, because many people underestimate this damage to heal factor, especially with your passive, and so they overcommit on you, and then they end up feeding instead. Next, we're going to max living armor first because it scales exponentially. At level 1, it heals for 45, and it has a 15-second duration, but a 30-second cooldown. So you can only have one instance up, and then you got to wait 15 seconds. So it's not very impressive. But by the max level, you can have 2 instances up that is healing 180 health every time you cast it over the course of its duration, and then you're providing 12 bonus armor. Now, I do want to emphasize this. I know this ability is called Living Armor, but it used to be more of a healing ability, and it used to have damage block, actually, not even armor. So for those who remember that. But nowadays, it's really about the armor, and so rather than try to heal up a target that has taken a lot of damage, you want to mitigate that damage by buffing them first. They take that damage, but because of that 12 armor, it is less damage, and then that less damage they've taken, you are then healing up with the living armor, rather than like, hey, he took a bunch of damage, now we heal him up, okay? I mean, you can do that, but it's really, you want these always going so that they're always taking reduced damage, and that's why maxing it is so important, so that the cooldown goes down to 15 seconds, and you can choose the 2 most important targets, which really helps, because after you win your laning stage, we're trying to go help other lanes now. So 1 instance of living armor can always go on your carry, keep them healthy while they jungle or try to stay in the lane on their own. and maybe buy you time as you rotate back up there to help them if needed. But you keep them healthy while you help your mid or your off lane, or maybe you help your mid or your off lane as they are diving themselves and you want to get a kill. You buff them up so they take less damage from the towers, from the enemy heroes, all sorts of uses with living armor. You're going to take your ult every chance you get. It's just a really good ult. You can use it to initiate in the early levels, but as you go into the mid to late game, I recommend you think of this as a counter initiate ability because it's got some unique properties. One, it's just a root. It's not a stun, so it can be dispelled. And BKB does dispel, in case you didn't know that. So it's actually quite easy to counter your ultimate ability and then it does nothing. However, if they don't have another dispel after BKB and they use BKB first, this ability pierces BKB and it disarms. So while they're stuck there rooted, they can't attack. Most roots don't do that. You can usually still attack, but not through overgrowth. It also cancels channels. So if they're TPing or Crystal Maiden's ulting, something like that, you can cancel those channels. And it's 5 seconds. So BKB is 6 seconds at the final duration. So you can waste most of their BKB time with your ultimate. So in the early game, you can initiate. No one really has dispels. It's whatever. They're just rooted there. But as you enter that early to mid game, some dispels come out. Now you have to be more patient with your ults, wait for the BKBs to come out, and then use your ultimate. Most of the time, you're going to max Leech Seed next, because now that you're giving people 12 extra armor, you're getting better effective health and better effective healing. So by increasing our healing, by leveling this ability up, you're just going to make it harder to kill your various allies. This is also very good when you have like maybe a death ball lineup, like you're starting to group up, or you have like a single hero like Huskar who's just like, I just got to keep this guy alive and he'll do everything else. So here's armor, here's healing, just run it down for me, buddy. And then you'll max Nature's Grasp last because, I mean, you got nothing else to do, you'll use the slows. For talents, if we are doing this kind of lineup where we have that very important individual hero, you will take that 2 living armor heal per second. This is also good if you just want more healing, but if you don't, you can actually skip this talent for quite a while. Because you went living armor and leech seed first, the 5 seconds off Nature's Grass is not very significant until it's actually more leveled up. So if you don't really need this healing itself, you can delay this and start maxing. Well, first you'll match Leech Seed there, and then you'll start taking Nature's Grasp sooner. And then after you get Nature's Grasp maxed out, that's when you might take this left talent. But you might also take this damage talent first. It kind of depends. So cooldown will be better when you want it more for the slows in team fights or for split pushing a lot because you're trying to delay the game. You throw out the Nature's Grasp constantly with the extra 5 seconds off. If you don't need it so frequently, then that's when the damage first will be better. Like I said, this is not usually a damage ability, but this allows you to farm a bit better, and it also lets you split push to an extent. But without the bonus damage, this ability will already push lanes. So it comes down to a question of like, would you rather shove out lanes and then maybe jungle in between with the reduced cooldown? Or is it like too dangerous to do that? You just need to kill one creep wave really quickly and then like run deep into the jungle and hide again because the enemy is hunting you. Then you want damage first. So either of these can work. You could take the Leech Seed movement slow if, again, you're going back to this like couple heroes who are doing a lot of work and you just need to enable them. Ursas, Slarks, Huskars. You don't want enemies kiting them. Svens, there's another one. So as much as possible, we enable them, so you'll take things like the Leech Seed slow, and for those heroes, you might also take the -5 Nature's Grasp, even though you want to heal them. If you don't really need the heal, they're not really dying, but they're just getting kited too much, then lower cooldown slows could also help prevent that. At level 20, again, when you have like these specific heroes we're protecting, the Leech Seed armor, the living armor, bonus armor is typically the way to go, just to make your carry, your mid very difficult to kill. The heal is nice, but again, very difficult to use sometimes because of this extra, they have to be in the 650 radius, and it has to be for the full 5 seconds. If you're not in that time, then this talent is not going to be very good. When you have tons of melee heroes, tons of summons, all of that, that's when this talent can actually be pretty good, and especially when it's against like a lot of magic damage, pure damage, that's where like the armor is not so relevant. or their carry just isn't doing good, so you don't need armor, you need more like heals, and your teammates already bought a lot of armor, they have natural armor, buying a lot of armor items, then you just provide more heals to effectively amp that. Most of the time, living armor is going to be your safer bet, but there are cases for the Leech Seed damage and heal. Then at level 25, we talked about how your ult is counterable. No more, undispellable. Waste your 5 seconds of BKB, nerds. If you don't need this, you're in a bracket, no one's building BKBs, or you have like Magnus, Faceless, Void, these people who already pierce BKBs, and your ult's not as needed for that. But you're dealing with a lot of ratting. Oh, you guys have experienced that, right? 450 AoE living armor, really good for that then, because you can living armor whole sets of buildings and creep waves and your teammates, whoever's in the radius, and you can split push all over the map like this now, right? You're playing bottom lane, you living armor your top lane. All of your creeps have suddenly bonus 12 armor, extra heal, especially depending on what talents you took. That means they'll crush the enemy creep wave and shove it out, even if you've lost a Rax in the top lane. This living armor AoE helps all your creeps stay alive and push out lanes. There are some minor adaptations to this build that also may go into full other builds. So if you've got a super aggressive lane, you could even take 2 points in Nature's Grasp and Leech Seed before switching to living armor, because you're just getting extra slow, extra damage. This is especially when your teammate already has another stun, like you're playing with a Chaos Knight, or other slows like a Drow Ranger, and you're getting lots of kills, and you just want to like really get everything you can from that laning stage. Then you can go a very aggressive build where you get 2 points in these abilities first. If you want to transition to a more greedy build, then you need to max Nature's Grasp first for this build. This is the greedy build that you can do. You will still typically take 1 point in living armor, just the value point's pretty good. But you want level 7 in Nature's Grasp because of that damage that is going to be good against creeps, jungles. This will let you farm up more. 4 Treant tends to do this more because you get to be greedier that way. 5 Treant can do it if you see a case for it. You don't believe in your team, I get it. They're all jungling, stuff like that, and you just want to split push the lanes a lot. Then you want the reduced cooldown, you want the higher damage to be able to shove out lanes. If you're trying to defend towers, by the way, just stalling out the game, Nature's Grasp usually helps with that a little bit more than living armor nowadays, just because of the way this ability has been changed. It's not so good at healing. You will want both, and if you think that's your job, like just defend this tower forever, you will skip points in Leech Seed and just get both of these abilities. Level 2 in Nature's Grasp is kind of enough to get started and then get like a couple points in living armor and then go back to Nature's Grasp. But it's a lot harder to defend towers nowadays. As Treant, it's better to be more active. You'll probably lose 1 or 2 towers, but from there, now that you have the abilities, it becomes easier to defend your towers. Of course, if you can keep all your towers alive, that's the best. But if you start playing Treant and you haven't in a while, you may notice that. It's harder to keep towers alive compared to the past. Now from here, it kind of depends what you're doing. If you're using Nature's Grasp to get farmed and you're now ready to like be very active with your team, then that's where maxing Leech Seed next can help a lot. Now, if you're doing this greedy build, of course, for the talents, you're going to take the -5 Nature's Grasp cooldown and the plus 30 damage, and you'll take those pretty much as soon as you can because, I mean, that's why you built this build. And then like Leech Seed next if you've got... if you think it's good. I've already kind of explained when Leech Seed is good or bad. So when it's good, you max it next. If you think living armor is going to be better, you do that instead. But the bonus of this, especially if you're split pushing and why Leech Seed can be pretty good, is that you'll heal all the creeps. So as long as you have mana, which if you're doing a greedy build, you typically will, you use this to shove out lanes, but you can also occasionally throw out a Leech Seed on the enemy creeps because it'll keep your creep wave really healthy, and that builds up a huge creep wave to push into the enemy towers and draw a lot of attention. Either they don't come and you take a tower, or they come to get all these juicy creeps, and it means, hey, okay, now we can go fight somewhere else, or hey, I know someone's gonna come and there's like 30 creeps in this wave. Come here, guys, and we'll kill whoever comes here. So at least 2 points in Leech Seed can be pretty nice, but even maxing it out, I think is pretty helpful. For a greedy Treant, this will be your highest damage build as well, and highest like team fight impact. But if you are planning on like just farming, delaying the game quite a while, and that means you don't really leave your lane as much, but you still want to contribute to your team, that's when maxing living armor second after this can help, because like, hey, I know I'm farming down here, but here's a couple living armor, you peasants, don't bother me down here. You can also do a max Leech Seed first build. This is best when you have a very tempo lineup involving summons typically. So Leech Seed, level 1, level 2, we were already doing that, but then to really max it out first, that means we're planning to be very aggro, very active, join your off lane, join your mid laner, hey, let's dive them, hey, let's take these towers. You will buy arcane boots, spoiler alert, so you will always have mana, and you will provide mana to your team, and then with a maxed out Leech Seed, you're keeping everyone healthy with your capped out heal. Everyone, hey, group up. Okay, we're all healthy. Let's keep going. We take another fight. Okay, everyone, group up, heal. All right, keep going. So this maxed first allows you to be very high tempo, very active. Not many pubs do that. This build has fallen off compared to the start of the patch when it was really popular. Everyone was trying out the new Leech Seed build. It still has its place, in my opinion, especially as Death Prophet and Beastmaster have shown to be some of the better off lanes. I think if you have the right lineups, the right carries to be active, this can be a good build. But I would say this is probably the least popular build compared to maxing Nature's Grasp or maxing Living Armor first. This is really strong when it's strong, but those situations and those like coordinated playstyles just tend to not happen as much in pub games. One more build variation you might see is something like this, where you actually take Leech Seed into Living Armor into another point in Leech Seed or another point in Living Armor before then going back for some Nature's Grasp, and then from there maxing probably Living Armor or maybe a Leech Seed. The reason you do this is a very defensive starting build, so this is when you plan to pull creeps a lot. Can't really play the lane, so you're going to show up, heal your carry with Leech Seed, walk away to do like pulls and stuff, and you're going to buff them up with Living Armor so they don't die while you're gone. This is when you have really bad matchups, or when you have a carry who isn't in that bad of a matchup but isn't going to do anything. Something like a Morphling, right? He's just going to farm for a while in many matchups. He's not actually planning to play aggressive. Or you have like Medusa, Luna, right? They're like, just go stack for me. I don't really need you. This lane's not that scary. Just heal me up, buff me, and go keep the lane equilibrium in a good spot. Go make stacks for me. That's when this kind of skill build is pretty good. I almost forgot this section. A couple things you'll want to know about your abilities. So Q, actually pretty straightforward. No need to talk that much. Everything you need to know in this ability. W, there's a couple unique things here. So W can be dispelled. I want you guys to remember that. So be careful about using it on heroes like Legion and Abaddon, especially in the laning stage where you might not get much value out of it. W is a double-edged sword in the fact that it can help you track heroes through Fog of War and Invis. So Legion Commander runs out of sight, but you still kind of know where she is because she's pulsing and the heal will send it over. This also applies to Invis, and you know exactly where that hero is because they keep pulsing for a few more seconds. Keep this in mind, however, that the enemy also sees the pulses. So if you cast Leech Seed and you're trying to run away through the trees but staying too close, they will see where the pulses are going and they will know where you are. So if you're trying to stay out of sight, you have to break that 650 radius so that the pulses stop moving towards you. And if you're like out running a pulse, you want to pick it up instead of like continuously running away. Meet it and then continue running away if possible. I mean, do what's safest, but especially if you're like running through the trees with Invis, you're way faster than the pulses, so they'll just like follow you forever and the enemy knows exactly where to go. Even if the unit dies, Leech Seed will continue to pulse the 5 pulses. So this is great for pushing high ground when your carries are just killing creep waves. Try to cast Leech Seed really quickly on anything because you will get the full value out of the heal for your team. Living Armor is dispellable if the enemy has a purge like Oracle, though that's not terribly important. Now you know. You can cast it on towers. I'm sure many of you knew that, but if you didn't, make sure you know now because this is one of the most unique things about Treant Protector, but is maybe not directly obvious because almost no other ability affects towers in this game. You can cast it on teammates, of course, but did you know you can cast it through the top bar or the mini-map? The mini-map is useful if you're playing and you want to heal a tower or an ally in the top lane. And the top bar is really useful when you have a clump of units like this and we want to heal Legion Commander purple, but there's a lot here and we might misclick. Oops, but we still need to do it quickly. You can come to the top bar and heal like this and it will select your hero. This is also useful as you play the lane and you're in the bottom lane. You can see whose health is dropping in this top area and just heal them easily. If you take damage, your passive will be broken for a few seconds and you cannot walk into trees. However, if you're already standing in a tree and then you take damage, your passive does not break. This is essential to stay alive. Anytime you split push and anytime you're playing the lane, as much as possible, try to stay in the trees, because as long as you're in the trees, it is one of the easiest ways for you to get away, because you just walk through the trees like this and the enemies have to go through the limited pathways and you can get away from them. You can cast and cancel your ult. And that sound, you hear that? That sound stacks. And your teammates can hear this. This is essential for all Treant players to know how to do this. For your starting items, we will of course get our tangos, and then you're typically going to pick one of these items. So Orb of Venom is going to be your aggressive option. The 13% slow is going to help you and then either your offlaner or your carry do the damage, not get kited. Combined with the slows you already provide means you get lots of time to just punch your target down and get a kill. If you can't do this, that's okay. Magic Stick can also be a mix between an aggressive or a defensive item, just depending on the lane. You only get it though when the enemy is going to use a lot of spells. So they use a lot of spells, try to harass you down, you get the charges, boom, Leech Seed, healed up, good to go, right? Plus the heal from the Magic Stick, also amplified by your passive. So you can do Orb of Venom Stick. It's a very greedy start, but if it's, you know, a great aggressive lane, plus they're going to use a lot of spells, you can do that. Otherwise, you'll typically just buy one or the other. Then Ring of Protection. This is when, you know, not a good spell lane, not looking to be aggressive, but we need to play the lane. We still need to punch a bit. We need to draw attention to ourselves. Ring of Protection is going to help because you have terrible armor. So you're going to get extra value there, but then also you have a lot of healing from your passive, your spells. So now that healing is then amplified by this extra armor you're getting as well. Then your final option is Windlace, where you're not really planning to play the laning stage all that much. It will help you like the Orb of Venom in terms of your own individual harass, where, hey, I slowed them, so I get one extra punch. Hey, I'm faster, I get one extra punch. This movement speed is also amped by your passive, by the way. But if you're just standing in the lane a lot, then you don't really want move speed. You'd rather have one of these other like stat items. This is when you don't want to play the lane that much. You're going to do a lot of stacks and pulls so that you're faster going between those and the tree line. So you can show up in the lane, punch, heal, run away, pull, run back to the lane. Lots of movement. That's when the Windlace is there. Fill out the rest of your money with mangoes and branches. The branches help with your armor and intelligence. Your mana pool, same thing with the mangoes. For the mana, especially if you're planning to be aggressive with Orb of Venom, you need enough to cast Q and W because that's your kill combo. But the HP regen will then just be amped by your passive as well, so extra value for you. And then feel free to drop any of these for a sentry or two if you need that. Buy whatever consumables you need for the laning stage, but you do want to make your way towards Arcane Boots and a Wand. Wand, just a solid support item. The Arcane Boots are going to keep your team active. So they go, I have no mana, I'm going to go jungle and go back to base. No, I've got Arcane Boots, stay here, play with me. We have no health though, I want to go jungle and go back to base. No, I've got mana, so I can cast Leech Seed and keep you all healthy so we can keep doing things. So this helps keep your team active and helps you spam all the spells. Your Living Armor can be cast off cooldown if you're going that build, so you'll just need constant mana. Arcane Boots, very useful for that. From here, you kind of get to choose a couple different items. These are your core, but I will say here, build whatever your team needs. If you can make a case for it, it can be reasonable, do it. You kind of have everything you need for your own skills and for your own contribution to the team, so your items can just help fill in the gaps for whatever your team needs. Shard is really common. The Invis allows you to do a lot of scouting, a lot of sneaky plays by planting wards or just pushing waves, being very difficult to catch. You root people when you hit them, 2 seconds from the trees, 1 second without the trees. So that's just great setup or defensive use. Sit behind your carry. They don't know how to, don't know where you are. They try to get your carry. You root them. Your carry gets away. A lot of just different uses for this shard. You can also get the blink before or after the shard. Before, especially if your team needs initiation. After, just generally good if you don't need anything else. You can blink between tree lines, blink into the enemy base, get the best ult you can. Very useful. Very important against certain heroes like Pangolier and Enigma. Channeled spells like Crystal Maiden and Snapfire. Your ultimate can cancel all of those abilities or like root that Pango for a while. If the enemy has a very powerful BKB hero who's like going crazy, right? Making sure you ult them and slow down their BKB usage. That's very important. So that's when this item can be really good. Otherwise, I recommend that you think of Treant as a backline hero. Even though he's melee, he actually likes to sit in the back, counter initiate, protect his teammates. So that's when you don't really need a blink, and you can build other things like mech into Greaves. The extra heal and armor amplifies your heal and your armor, so it just makes it very difficult to kill your allies if no one else is building it. Any of these, if you can make a case for it, sure. 4 staff is fine, though you will kind of break some of your own trees. Refreshers, a very greedy option if you're like 4 Treant. Blink Refresher can be very powerful though in the right games. You're gonna go like a Q build and farm a lot to get this, but in the right games can be good. Otherwise, any early tempo items like drums, Wraith Pact, Pipe if your team needs it. Lotus Orb, classic support item. Many people will ask about Holy Locket. I'm actually not a huge fan of this right now. I think you provide enough healing, and it's better to provide more armor and magic resistance to increase the effective HP of your spells already. Holy Locket, just, I don't know exactly how to explain it, but it just doesn't feel good right now, and I actually think it's kind of sad you have to disassemble your arcane boots for it, because then you can't use it for mana for yourself and your team a lot. But it doesn't make sense to build this without disassembling this, and then to buy both also feels weird. So I actually don't like Holy Locket all that much. If all you need is heals and your team's building a lot of resistances, then you can get it, but I personally have not been building it at all. Meteor Hammer's another classic people ask about. Not very good right now at higher levels of play, but depending on where you are in, if your teams are not pushing out the lanes a lot, you can get this. It's a greedy item. It allows you to farm a lot, but if no one's dealing with the side lanes well, then yeah, go ahead and do it. Plus the shard means that people don't even see you doing it a lot of the time, so you can sneakily shove the lane into their tower and then start taking towers. You get a lot of farm. You can go into like that Refresher, that Aghanims, be really greedy that way. Speaking of which, that Ags, typically you won't get it unless, like I said, in your brackets, the game's going long, then sure, the vision is fantastic. The higher up you go, it's just too slow. The active gameplay favors things like Mech, Pipe, Wraith Pact, right? Things that you can buy a lot faster and have immediate value on that buildup. This does not do anything until you finish 4,000 gold worth item. So I don't usually buy this too much, but I have legitimately bought it pretty quickly or into the late game if I think vision is critical. So against heroes like Tinker or they're doing really well, like a Legion commander is going crazy, and we just need to know where Legion is so we stop dying randomly, then I do think Aghanims can help a lot with that. And the longer the game goes, the more value you get out of this. You can deal with like split push a lot because the ult hits everywhere. It can push out the waves for you if you plant the trees well. So I love this item. I build it more than I should, but from a like objective standpoint, I can tell you it's not very good for the current meta, but I still love it. Now, things like Yules, this is good in certain games just against the matchups like Troll, Ursa, Abaddon. If you don't need anything else and you think it's good for that you can do that. Glimmer's not so popular right now because you have the shard, so double invis doesn't quite make sense. If you don't get the shard, this is good, and if you just need a Glimmer, it's still good, but people haven't really been building Glimmer, myself included, so I don't really recommend it right now. And then Ghost Scepter, you're kind of depending on your survivability of just like being in the trees, being in the backline, and then possibly being invisible as well. So you don't tend to need these like survivability support items because we aren't getting caught as easily as other supports. We're just like chilling in a tree. You don't even know I'm here, and then I punch you and then I walk away. So you don't really need to build these, but you can if you really need to. For neutral items, typically anything that helps your mana will be good because that's your biggest issue. You don't really have issues with health because of your passive and your healing spells. Anything that helps with your mobility is useful because Treant's pretty slow. And then avoid anything that reveals where you are in the trees, mainly this Cloak of Flames. You don't want them to know where you are. Besides that, pick up whatever your team leaves for you and makes sense. This video is already going a little long because we had to cover so many different skill paths and different itemization choices. So the next video is going to cover more gameplay examples, and I'll give a deeper explanation of when to use different abilities, the best way to maximize it, all of that. So if you really want to get good at Treant, check out that video. But if not, this video should have provided enough of a framework to get you started to play one of the best supports right now. Try them out. Let me know how it works. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.